I don't think most people understand just how quickly machine intelligence is advancing. It's much faster than almost anyone realizes, even within Silicon Valley, and certainly outside Silicon Valley, people really have no idea. If there's a super intelligent, particularly if it's engaged in recursive self-improvement, if there's some digital super intelligence and its optimization or utility function is something that's detrimental to humanity, then it will have a very bad effect. It could be just something like getting rid of spam email or something, and it's like concludes, well, the best way to get rid of spam is to get rid of humans. Actually, I think the thing to do would be to plot the progress of digital intelligence versus time, and then to maybe curve fit or extrapolate that progress and see where that leads. They have the intention of their utility function, but it can have unintended consequences. It's more likely than not that if there's some digital superintelligence apocalypse scenario, it would probably follow people to Mars. Not necessarily, because of that utility function. If it simply has a utility function that is arbitrarily confined to Earth, it would be totally fine doing that. I think the reason for Mars, there's two main reasons for Mars or becoming a multiplanetary. I think one is the defensive reason. It's life insurance for life as a whole, and there's some value to having that. It would, in terms of a small percentage of our economic output, like let's say 0.5% or maybe even less of our economic output, to ensure that the light of consciousness as we know it propagates into the future for a much longer period of time. And so there's that defensive reason, and this is the first time in 4.5 billion years since Earth was first formed that it's been possible for life to move to another planet, to become multiplanetary. And that window may be open for a long time, or it may be open for a short time. I'm actually quite an optimistic person, so I'm hopeful that it'll be open for a long time, but maybe it'll be open for a short time, in which case we should take action now and not delay it. I'll just say the other reason, which I actually find personally more motivating with respect to Mars, which is that it would just be the greatest adventure ever, and very exciting. And I think we need things in life that are exciting and inspiring. It can't just be about solving some awful problem. There have to be reasons to get up in the morning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it is going to, from what I've heard of Oculus Rift and some of the other immersive technologies, that it's quite transformative. You really feel like you're there. And then when you come out of it, it feels like reality isn't real. So I think we'll see probably less physical movement in the future as a result of the virtual reality stuff. Well, I mean, there's some interesting things here on the virtual reality front. Just on the whole notion of a simulation, which is that if you extrapolate into the future and say, well, how good, let's say, will video games be in 100 or 200 or 1,000 years from now? If there's continued improvement and you're in a full-body haptic suit with a sort of surround vision, and it becomes, beyond a certain resolution, indistinguishable from reality. And there are likely to be millions, maybe billions of such simulations. So then, what are the odds that we're actually in base reality? Isn't it 1 in billions? So where we are right now is I think on the SpaceX front, we've made evolutionary but not revolutionary progress. We're hoping to make revolutionary progress in the coming years. But the key breakthrough that we're aiming for is to be able to have the rocket booster come back and land. It's been expendable rockets up till now, really, except for the space shuttle was partly reusable. But it was extremely difficult to refurbish for flight. You needed 10,000 people needed to work 9 months to refurbish the space shuttle. So what we really need is rapid and complete reusability, like an aircraft or a car or really any mode of transport besides rockets is reusable horse, bicycle, you can think of almost anything. But imagine if that mode of transport was not reusable. So very, very unfortunate in the case of the horse. But even like in cars, like if you could use a car once, and you'd have to buy a new car every time you took a journey, odds are you would not buy many cars, because they would be very expensive. So reusability essentially opens the door for reducing the cost of spaceflight by a factor of 100 or more. Yeah, I mean, the beginning there was no government. I funded SpaceX entirely with the proceeds from PayPal. We got our sort of first government contract about 5 or 6 years after starting the company from NASA. But I should say about NASA's maybe a quarter of our flights, 3/4 are commercial. I'm not exactly sure whether we're at the right number for basic research. I mean, I'm a fan of research, so I'd be in favor of spending more money on that, allocating more resources to basic research. But I think the government's doing quite a bit. I mean, NASA's doing a lot of things. We've obviously got the rovers on Mars. We've got the Hubble, things like the Hubble telescope, the upcoming James Webb telescope. There are planetary probes and Earth science missions launching all the time. So NASA's doing quite a lot. I'm not sure about the flying cars. I mean, that's not to say I don't think there should be flying cars. I mean, but if the sky was full of cars flying all over the place, then it would affect how things look. It would affect the skyline, and it would be noisier, and there would be a greater probability of something falling on your head. Those are not good things. On the other hand, that you could be able to go from one place to another faster. But I think actually, if you eliminate the choke points in cities, then there's really not that much traffic outside of the choke points. So you look at sort of in suburban streets, you don't see a lot of. The traffic doesn't choke things. It's really on the highways and major arteries, and it's because the cities grew way bigger than them. What Tesla's going to do is stationary storage of, in a very large-scale way, because it's very important to pair battery packs with solar power, and for wind it's even more important. So with the Gigafactory that we're creating in Nevada, we're going to create probably tens of gigawatt hours per year of stationary storage on the battery front. So there's a lot coming for sure. Things seem to be going fairly well in China. We've had a very enthusiastic response, and I think long term it seems likely that China would be the biggest market for Tesla. I'm really optimistic about things over there. It seems likely that it would likely be bigger than North America, in the long term. The government's been pretty good. I mean, there is certainly, in terms of the incentive structure, it does favor local production, but overall, it's I think it's not been too much of an issue. The government's been great so far. This may sound trite, but I honestly think tunnels should be given a lot more consideration. If you look at a city, if you look at we have all these apartment buildings and office buildings, and they're on many levels. Like they're could be like an average of in Manhattan. I don't know what is an average of like 30 stories or something like that. But then you've got a street which is 1 story. This is an obvious issue. Like you have a 30-to-1 ratio of Yeah, and you can have tunnels the tunnels don't have to follow the buildings. They can go diagonally
through the basement. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can have as many levels as you want. Mm-hmm. So it's really just the cost of building the tunnels, but really a tunnel's a hole in the ground. Like how hard can it really be? I mean, it seems like if some entrepreneurs put their effort into building tunnels. Yeah, I mean, within cities, it's sort of tunnels and tubes. And I mean, for long distance travel, I really think that the vertical takeoff and landing electric supersonic aircraft is the way to go. Right. I think it's very doable.